Namaste, many blessings to you. This is Verdeluz from DivineTimingCoaching.com, Divine Timing Coaching, and I am a locational astrologer and human design analyst, as well as life and business coach, using astrology and human design to help you find your power places around the world and to discover your life's mission and unfold it with grace and ease and electric energy at this time with Mars, Uranus, and the North Node. I wanted to do a video about this because it's just so powerful and there's so many things to talk about with this cycle. In this video, I want to go back to a few previous cycles with Uranus on the North Node, Mars and Uranus on the North Node, what Mars and Uranus, that combination alone means, why it's so significant that this is happening on the North Node, and what it means for all of us right now and how you might be affected by this transit. This is really, really big energy, and I am kind of titling this all about, massive synchronicity, or as my teacher, my great teacher, Kelly Lee Phipps, talked about, astronicity, that the stars, the planets always are providing a language for synchronicity if we pay attention to their symbols. And so literally as I went to record this, the lightning storm went off, the thunder is echoing all around me. And this is exactly the symbolism of this transit. Uranus on the North Node and Mars coming to trigger it. Uranus is known as the Great Awakener, the Epiphany bringer. Very Promethean archetype who steals the fire from the gods to liberate us. And when you have a planet on the North Node, it is part of our collective destiny. It's part of our evolution, what we are collectively hungry for. And so there is a rebellious energy that's emergent right now. And the rebellion of Uranus, or Prometheus, who was stealing the fire from the Olympians, is about finding our true selves, is about tapping into our individuality, our authenticity, and also our sovereignty. And so this cycle is really promoting us awakening to our uniqueness, our eccentricities, letting our freak flags fly, and breaking out of any stuck energies, old molds, places we don't fit. And this could really, this kind of energy, triggered by Mars over the next few weeks, the end of July and the beginning of August, is going to really activate and catalyze great change in many of our lives. I'm going to show you the chart and continue to talk about this cycle. So let's share the screen. And we're going to look at an animated chart for today and moving forward. And we'll look at the new moon in Leo as well, because the new moon is going to be the peak of when this energy is exact, really. So if you look here on the 20th, here is Mars about 8 degrees away from Uranus. But Uranus is already on the North Node. Now, over the next week until the new moon, we'll see that the new moon right here on July 28th is happening about the 5th degree of Leo, and it's going to be right as Mars is just 2 degrees away from the North Node and from Uranus. And if we move this forward, just to give you the time map here, you'll see that the exact conjunction of all three, August 1st, August 1st. So peak window right as we move into August. And then we'll say that Mars will still be part of this configuration, pretty much until a week after. So let's look at, about a 2.5 to 3 week window here where this is really, really strong. But then we have this long cycle of Uranus on the North Node, and Saturn is coming back to square this node, the North and South nodes, and to square Uranus. And so there's a lot to talk about here, but this is the last Saturn-Uranus square that we're going to see. And that really started up over a year and a half ago. 2021, 2022 have had a lot of the Saturn-Uranus energies. We are breaking out of an old world paradigm. This is the tension between the Saturn forces of the conservative, of the safe, seemingly safe, And a lot of this is having to do with institutional revolution, Uranus. And whenever we look at Uranus and a connection to the North Node, there is something new being born. There's an eruption and a disruption of what has been, an eruption into a new level of consciousness for all of us, a new way of experiencing life, of experimenting with life. There's just something really, really innovative and fresh and exciting that is calling all of us forward. So each of us has something in our lives right now that feels like it may be stale, it may be feeling stuck, it may be feeling like it's the old self, it's the old skin. And this Uranus North Node, and with Mars catalyzing and activating and igniting this, is wanting to break us out of that skin or out of that old world. So we might see that there could be some very rebellious energies on the planet in the next few weeks. There could be mass protests. We know that there have been a lot of supply chain issues with Uranus on the North Node in Taurus. Taurus is the sign of basic needs, shelter, the material world. There is disruption, Uranus, that can come from the ability to actually get some of those basic needs. It could be food. It could be things going off the shelf. I went into a pharmacy the other day, and it was amazing how all of the lipstick and all of the eyeliners were gone. I guess those are our priorities, but that was kind of shocking. And shock is a Uranian term. And so we're looking at Mars. Think of Mars, right, as the warrior, as the desire nature within us, as the passion, as the force of action, catalyzing this kind of shock, this kind of surprise of Uranus. We don't really know what's going to happen, and it could be changing very, very, very quickly. This, Mars energy, when you see a firecracker, a firework go off, it shocks you, right? And it's sudden, and it kind of like stings you with the sound. And there's something like that going on for all of us right now. Now, there is a question of who will be most affected by this transit. And if you do have planets that are in between, say, about 13 and 23 degrees of Taurus, Leo, Aquarius, or Scorpio, then those planets will be very affected by this transit. So they will go through a chaotic revolution, a big change, a sudden upheaval, and maybe a breakthrough. And that's one of the potentials here, is that even though this could be very disruptive and even potentially kind of violent, it's like we're being ripped away from something that is no longer serving our evolution. Or maybe it wasn't at all serving our evolution, and now we're being electromagnetized by Uranus and Mars towards the next stage of our soul's growth and evolution and destiny. Again, all of this on the North Node suggests that this is important. It's part of our hunger. The North Node is also known as Rahu, the dragon's head in India, the dragon's tail being the South Node. And something we've been learning over the years, actually over the last year, with the nodes in South Node in Scorpio and the North Node in Taurus, is we've been learning to let go with the South Node in Scorpio of unnecessary dramas, complexities, entanglements. And so we have a question right now with this, like, is there some relationships in our life or some soul contracts with a place, with a person, with a job that feels like it's, maybe we've sold out in a way. Maybe we've compromised in a way. And this transit, we won't be able to tolerate that compromise anymore. We won't, because again, the fixed signs are very stubborn. And this is a question of what we want to be stubborn for, what we want to stand for in our lives. And that standing for has a lot to do with who we want to represent ourselves as. And there's something here about a new kind of freedom and independence that we have to stand for. I really like, that scene from Braveheart, they may kill us, or something to this effect. They may take away our lives, but they'll never take away our freedom. And this is the rally call right now for all of us. And so there may be some ways that we're entangled with inheritances, maybe psychic inheritances, shadows that we've taken on from family or from the culture we come from, or a relationship that, maybe we've benefited from, but no longer is serving our growth. And we have to come into Taurus self-reliance. And that means also learning what our true values are right now and going for them. Mars, taking action in that direction. And not being afraid of the new, but embracing the idea of being like a mad scientist going into the laboratory and experimenting with his or her life, and discovering new kinds of freedom on the other side of this experimental process. And taking the approach that whatever I decide right now, the universe is got my back, and there's a big trust that needs to open up with what's moving through. Now, there's other ways that this energy is manifesting. And something I said way back when Mars went into Aries and Jupiter went into Aries, in early mid-May, Jupiter went into Aries, and then the end of the end of May, Mars went into Aries, and it was like, ooh, this is probably going to be the hottest summer on record, and it has been the hottest summer in many, many parts of the world, and you can look at England, 100-degree temperatures they never get, the droughts happening throughout Italy, the Po River drying up, big challenges throughout Portugal and Spain with wildfires. And we do think that Mars-Uranus is very electric in its symbolism, and it could bring more wildfires, right? Electric energies going off that could cause fires. We do think, again, with Taurus, that this Uranus cycle over the last couple of years, and then getting catalyzed over the next couple of weeks with Mars, it could bring some really big Earth changes, which, there is a greater awareness collectively right now around climate change. But we do think that this could bring some major, could be earthquake with Taurus. It could be something catalytic and cathartic, and that could also disrupt the supply chains even more, right? We've also seen this showing up with flights, and this has kind of been dubbed the revenge summer because we've been waiting, right? We've been waiting to travel. We've been waiting to go to our destinations that we like to go to for the summer, but there's been too many people. And so there's been this, and this is very much the Saturn-Uranus tension of the airlines don't have the staff that they need to support all of the travelers. And so flights are getting canceled, flights are getting delayed, people are waiting 4 or 5 hours just to check in to security. And so we could see that this might be a peak moment of travel disruption as well. I mean, aviation has a Uranian quality to it because it is new technologies always, but there's some stuckness there. There's some delay there with the Saturn energy coming in, and it might just keep increasing as Saturn and Uranus get closer and closer to each other. They won't hit their exact square. You can see Saturn here is at 20, Uranus at 18. This is September 1st. And then if you go forward, you'll see that by October 1st, they're in exact square. Maybe this keeps intensifying around flights. Definitely all of us should be getting travel insurance if we're flying. We should expect the delays during this transit. Now, if we go back into some previous cycles, remembering that this energy is very explosive, right? Mars warrior, Mars hunter, being careful with not taking unnecessary risks in our lives. Um, Mars Uranus can be volatile, and so things that like you've never done before that might be very dangerous, we might not want to do them for the first time during this transit. Maybe not going like bouldering or rock climbing or something really dangerous like, like that. But a great time to be very physical, very adventurous, um, working out a lot, being in nature. Great time for that. But if we do look back, it's interesting to think about 1991 with one of the previous cycles, um, and the conjunction with Uranus in the North Node, because we had, of course, the Gulf War going on at that time, and Mars came in, and then and of course this was extremely devastating. Um, there also was a lot of new trends that were developing at that time. Um, and it's one of my favorite times in history because of the grunge movement. And we saw, Saturn also came in with Uranus at that time and Neptune. So there was a whole new kind of motif and theme around, a kind of liberated, smells like teen spirit. Uranus is the planet of the youth and the new. And this was a new vibration. So we might see something in terms of music that could be very liberating for many. It may be festivals that are happening at this time. I know there's a festival I'm planning to go to called Arctangent, which has a lot of like more extreme like metal, rock, like post-rock, post-metal. Really cool. There could be a lot of experimentation coming in terms of sound and music, and a lot of new ideas, a lot of fresh ideas. There is, the collapsing of sort of old technologies, old worlds. I mean, the Soviet Union pretty much collapsed at this time. And it's interesting that, of course, Russia is very strong in the news during this cycle. Um, there, so these collective trends that Uranus represents, right? We talked about, again, the grunge movement, but it was also a really powerful time in terms of comedy and a new way of kind of expressing ourselves. In the US, we had shows like Saturday Night Live and In Living Color being very popular at this time. And there was a kind of, again, it was very kind of liberating comedy, and it was fresh and it was experimental. And, that idea of something new bursting at the seams and tapping into the collective consciousness is very present with this. So what else happened during previous cycles? Well, 2007, the iPhone, the Android changed the game. Yeah. Twitter, Kindle. I mean, these are companies that, right, like have forever changed technology and we use every day. And so we do think that what is emergent right now and what might get born or erupt into consciousness during this time could actually have a very far-reaching effect for many years and decades to come. So tuning into what does that mean for you? Like, what technologies are calling you? Maybe you want to invest in something new. Maybe it's about cryptocurrency. Maybe everything does collapse at this time and people turn to Bitcoin and Ethereum. Maybe it has a breakaway from being so tied in to what's happening with the world markets and the stock market. Bitcoin unfortunately has been really tied into that, but maybe if we realize that the dollar is just this hyperinflated currency and everything is dependent on it, we can create other realities of exchange. Maybe this is the moment where that change really happens. So digital currency, maybe it gets adopted very quickly in the next weeks and months. We could see something like that happening very strongly. But we do know that there is that disruption in finance with this. And of course, hyperinflation is part of this. And so people are questioning, what is really valuable? What's really important to me? Should I invest a ton in digital? Is that real? Um, will NFTs be like the thing that will make me a millionaire? What does it mean to be a millionaire? Is it more important to have a home, to build a home, to be off the grid, to have a community around me, to grow my own food, to be self-reliant? Taurus, right? Is real estate a much better investment, Taurus, uh, that could keep giving me income again and again, and it's actual real instead of, buying, as we saw earlier this year and last year, virtual real estate for millions of dollars? These are questions we're all asking, Um, the first credit card in previous cycles came through. I mean, think about that in terms of, finances. And um, even if you go very far back, money through leather in China was discovered and started to be used. Paper currency. So we know that currency is going through a major shift. Um, so wow, it's just such a big cycle. And this energy is just really asking you about how to be cutting cords with parts of your past, moving towards the future, shifting the paradigms in your life. It may be also about food, Taurus, the food that you're eating. Maybe it's about being vegan or being not, or being more intentional with how you eat, not just what you eat. Maybe praying over your food more, praying with your water, praying with the resources. That could be something that comes through. But we need to expect the unexpected. We need to expect great change very quickly. It's almost like overnight something could change. And and you can have a great awakening. You might go to a ceremony and realize something about your soul, your future, and there's no going back in some way, right? This might be a transit that feels like I must aggressively move towards my future, and that means I need to release myself from the past. I'll offer you this practice from the hand fasting tradition, pagan practice of, hand fasting is when we actually like tie the knot. That's where we get the term tie the knot. We would fasten our hands together and make a ceremony of commitment for a year and a day. And then we would come back in front of our community after the year and a day and say, do we want to commit to each other for another year and a day? We've done a full cycle of the year, which happens to be a full cycle of Venus, the goddess of love and relationships. Or do we want to commit for the rest of our lives now that we've done this year? Or do we want to hand part and cut the cord and honor and acknowledge what we've learned together, how we've grown, what we've discovered, what we've explored, but also know that we're going in different directions, that the spirit is calling us to evolve in different ways at this time, and we can honorably part. And so the idea here is there is a need to honorably part from certain areas of your life and to move forward with this surge of electric energy, right? With this fire in your soul, and to feel a kind of new freedom, authenticity, individuality, independence, and to know that you're supported by community of other revolutionaries going on their journey, and you're going to meet each other along the way at this time. And so be careful to not be defensive or too irritable or too aggressive, but also to let yourself be unleashed to the next stage of your evolution and your soul's growth, and to really finding who you truly are and want to be. Because the rest of the year, before Mars goes retrograde, and Mars will go retrograde in October, the end of the last day of the month, we're going to really need to be authentic with who we are and the message that we want to stand for when Mars goes into Gemini for 8 months. So I hope this has been helpful for you. If you'd like a session coaching in astrology, human design, locational astrology, let me know. It's divinetimingcoaching.com. My email is verdeluz@gmail.com, Verdarluz. You'll see it in the comments below. And it's been really great to share this with you today. And onward, Braveheart, bravado, move forward with grace, with ease, with love, with compassion. I hope.